Welcome, guys.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Diego, how you doing today? Hello, everybody.
Doing really, really well, Bob. Really appreciate you being on the show. This is our first episode, believe it or not.
Awesome. Well, happy to break it in.
Well, actually, Bob, I don't know if you recall last year we had scheduled to have this conversation. I was going back and forth with your personal assistants, and we actually, the day that we're supposed to jump on the call, we had the wildfires out here in LA. That's what happened. So a year later, 14 months later, here we are back at it. Not much has changed except we're doing more deals. You're doing more deals, that's why we're here, right? To talk about those deals and mindset.
All
Yes.
right, sounds good.
Yeah. So want to acknowledge Bob. Bob has been in the commercial real estate space for 42 years now, and he is the kingpin of commercial real estate in Manhattan. 2,391 buildings and counting, probably more than that as of today. 24 billion in volume.
But who's counting?
And really excited to have Bob on the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that you've experienced in your career, Bob, because as a commercial broker, we're constantly being bombarded by challenges. We're trying to stitch deals together, and a lot of the times they end up falling out, and then we're having to pick up the pieces and put them back together and then get it across the finish line. So love to, get a little intro from you, Bob, and your career and, what you've done and where you've been.
Sure. Well, started my career in 1984 at CBRE, which was called Coldwell Banker back in those days, and was there for 4 years. Met my partner, Paul Massey. We started Massey Knakal in November of 1988. Ran that company for 26 years and 46 days before we sold it to Cushman & Wakefield in 2014 for $100 million. We had grown the company to be the most dominant investment sales platform, not only in the city, but probably in the history of the U.S., people tell me, because we did more than 3 times the number of sales as our closest competitor for 14 years in a row, according to CoStar. So over that, the CoStar started tracking the market in 2001, and from 2001 to 2014, the number 2 company had sold about 1,300 properties. We sold over 4,000. So,
Amazing.
had a good run. Sold to Cushman. I was the chairman of investment sales in New York at Cushman. Then I was the chairman of investment sales at JLL in New York for 6 years, and started my own company 2 years ago yesterday. April 2nd of 2024 we started, and very, very narrowly focused today. I've always believed in specialization. Today we basically just sell vacant properties in New York. What do you do with vacant properties in New York? You knock the buildings down and build something new. You renovate the heck out of it and convert the use to a higher and better use, or you sell it to a user group.
Yeah.
But that's all we do. We focus on that very narrow band. Again, as I've done my whole career, only representing sellers, only working on exclusives, only working on stuff in New York, and having fun again. There are pros and cons to every platform. The big giant companies were not for me. Again, pros and cons to everything, but very excited and happy to be an entrepreneur again, and having a lot of fun at my own shop.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So
that
you
is
said it was
amazing.
2 years ago yesterday. So that's literally congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's all. A question for you, Bob. Obviously, you're strictly involved in the New York market. So when you essentially focus on the market, how often do you change your marketplace in sense of your asset types? Because I know in the past you've done buildings that are stabilized, but now you're more focused on vacant buildings. Is that what you're doing? How often?
Yeah, well, Carl, I've been a generalist my entire career, selling
Okay.
all kinds of buildings. Again, very narrow value proposition, only selling buildings in New York, only representing sellers, only working on exclusives. Still doing those 3 things, but I've narrowed even further the types of properties I work on. I think that, back in the days when we started Massey Knakal in the 80s, property level information and ownership information was so hard to get.
Sure.
So having a geographic focus and doing everything within a neighborhood was a competitive advantage. Today, I think, specializing at one thing and getting to know everything about something rather than something about everything is the way to go. So I've kind of calibrated the way I look at the world. I used to be a broker and implemented a brokerage model company wide that went a mile wide and an inch deep, and just tried to get my hands on as many things as possible. Today, I'm doing just the opposite. I'm going an inch wide and a mile deep with people and providing them with what I think is unparalleled market information in what I do. And the best analogy I can use is, if you're out running and you tear the ACL in your knee, and you go see two doctors, and the first doctor says, "Oh, knee ACL, no problem. I've done a ton of knees. I do knees, elbows, shoulders, ankles, hips. I could do it all." And then you go see another guy, and he says, "Yeah, I only do knee ACLs. I've done 10,253 of them."
Yeah.
Where are you going to have surgery?
Yeah.
Right. So that's our whole philosophy is really being as much of an expert in a very narrow niche of the marketplace as possible. And we've done a number of things to create information and data that is tough to replicate. And that's really been a way for us to differentiate ourselves. And that differentiation, as always, leads to a competitive advantage.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
go ahead, Diego.
And I think that's how you've created this identity, Bob, of being a data-centric, data-driven broker, and how your expertise, and you've funneled that expertise into a very specific business. And obviously, it wasn't always like that in your career. Earlier on, before technology, before the internet, before the cell phone. Tell us a little bit about those days, because my background, I've worked in retail and started businesses in retail, and it's an old clipboard and a piece of paper and an old till. Those days are long gone. And
yeah, but they work. They worked, and they still work.
Exactly.
So I will tell you, when I started my career, think about this: no computer on my desk, no fax machine, no cell phone. We carried rolls of quarters around in our pocket to go to the corner and make calls from a payphone, which a lot of your listeners may not even know what a payphone is.
Yeah.
Those were the days, but we were always very, very data centric.
Yeah.
We put market reports together all the time, sent them out to our clients, sent out postcards with information on properties that had sold, that we were selling. We were creating content before content creation was even a coined phrase. Before email became popular, we were sending out 3 million pieces of mail a year.
Wow.
So imagine what our printing budget and our postage budget was. But that was the way to basically carpet bomb the marketplace with information, let folks know who we were, what we could do for them, what we had done for other people, what my buddy Ed Winslow calls proof stacking. And we were just, sending those things out all the time. And, we haven't, Massey Knakal sold 12 years ago now. And I still get people who remember getting all that mail from us because they got at least one piece of mail a month for forever. So it was a very effective way to get market presence and establish a reputation in the market.
And still a great, method of marketing, right? Like I'm sure you guys are still printing stuff out and sending it to these building owners, right?
Yeah, still do hard mail very regularly. I think hard mail is the most underrated form of marketing there is.
Yeah.
Clearly, making prospecting calls is still the #1 revenue generating activity that a broker can do. But hard mail is great. I mean, hard mail. You may be familiar with my business baseball card.
Yes.
Yes.
But this thing has all my statistics on the back, and this thing has a good shelf life. When you send it to someone in the mail, probably hangs around their desk for a little bit. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still very, very big believer in hard mail.
So I got a question for you. Obviously, I've been in the business since '91. You got in it in '84. So 7 years just after. Obviously, I started as a developer with my father out in Toronto. I think we've had a conversation about the Rangers against Toronto, me and you, a couple of times. I know you're a huge Rangers fan. I'm a huge Leafs fan, but don't hold that against me. But do you think right now, because I've been through the ages that you were mentioning, we had no GPS, we had no CoStar, there was, we were just running on papers and documents and pagers and phone booths. Do you think right now, with all of the technology, the data, the databases that we can tap into, do you think for somebody who's coming into the business in a commercial investment sales, with all the tools and technology resources, do you think now they have an upper hand? Obviously they do, but do you think now is a better time, or was it easier when we were because there was less competition? What do you think?
No, I don't think there was less competition. I actually think there was more competition
Okay.
back then. I think today what technology has done is it has allowed a smaller group of people to do the business that's getting done.
Yeah.
So I would say the brokerage ranks are probably thinned out. I think when you have a market where it's very difficult to get market information, that actually is a competitive advantage for those that can get it.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I think one of the realities is that most market information in the commercial real estate sector is not very good,
It's not.
very inaccurate. And that's why I'm a big proponent of creating your own proprietary databases.
Okay.
Use what's publicly available to create a base, but then go out and fine tune it yourself and get information from the folks that you know in the market and create something that nobody else has. If you're just using a report from a third party aggregator
Yeah.
to go meet with a client, a kid in third grade could get the same report.
Yeah.
So why are you going into a client with that? Go in with something nobody else has. And if you can do that, that really gives you a leg up.
Be different. Be different. You got to be unique. I think that's me and Diego always talk about this. We have our daily check-in calls in the evenings. We say, you know what? Everybody's trying to do the same thing, and I feel like in the market, in today's market, if one person is finding success with one aspect of the business, everybody's trying to be follower. Whereas I'm a high believer. If you want to stand out in this business, real estate business in general, you have to be different than your competitor. You have to do things differently to have an upper advantage. That's the way that we live. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page there. Yeah.
Bob, I got a question for you now.
Tough
You know,
questions. Bob,
and going back to the identity, I love analogies. I love your analogies. I love sports as well. I always think that you're like the Tony Gwynn of commercial, just thousands of hits, really amazing work. But you also had your challenges with JLL and Cushman and those firings. And you've got your own business today after all of this time. Tell us about those struggles. Tell us about those firings and the psychology behind it. Like what kept you going after getting knocked down twice?
Yeah, well, that's yeah, it's been kind of a bumpy ride, but learning experience. And as I said earlier, there are pros and cons to every single platform. Pros and cons to the biggest company on the globe. Pros and cons to small companies, mid-sized companies. Pros and cons to working for yourself, for working with somebody else. So I think the key is really to take advantage of the pros that your environment offers and try to keep your head down from the cons.
Mm.
Um, Cushman bought us, and shortly after buying us, breached all of our contracts by bringing over an investment sales team from Eastville. That shortened our contracts from 5 years to 3.5 years. Also got us a few more dollars, a little more support, and the company had not gone public yet, so. So I was basically, looking around, talking to other folks. The company made an offer to me several $1 million to stay for 3 more years until the company went public, or I was out. I didn't respond by their deadline and then read in the real deal that I was fired. So I then went to JLL with 53 people from Cushman. All 53 of those people had worked with me at Massey Knakal. And about a year after arriving at JLL, they breached my contract by doing the HFF deal. I could have pulled the ripcord at that time, should have gotten out of there, but didn't, because although I had an out in my contract, none of my folks did. Didn't want to leave them there. So, stuck around, and they ended up firing me. So that was actually a blessing for me, because of the way that the contract was structured. It would have taken me years to get out of it. Very, very excited to be running my own place again, and working with a bunch of energized folks who are really passionate about the business, and makes me feel like a kid again. So very excited to be back in the entrepreneurial shoes, and as I said, having fun.
Yeah, that's important, because I know you've mentioned several times that this business is not a career, it's a hobby. It's hobby. And I feel the same way, especially when you've got your own, you've got your own energy, you've got your own people that you're doing deals with, you're doing this thing every single day. Now, has this always been the case for you, or when you started off, you were looking at it as more of like, it's a career, it's a business, I got to go to work? Because I never
No,
thought I'm going to work.
I always say it's a career and a hobby.
Okay.
Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes you want to pull your hair out. Generally, I love the business. I've always loved it. It's what keeps me going. Like Diego said, there's a lot of correlation between sports and business,
Sure.
and sports and real estate. And I'm now closing in on 2,400 sales. I'd love to get to 3,000 someday, because 3,000 hits in baseball is a big milestone. I'd like to get to 3,000 sales. So,
Sure.
slowly but surely, it's going to take several more years, but we're just knocking them down one deal at a time.
I love how those JLL cards that you were signing, you were telling folks that,
Collectible.
these are going to be collector items in the future.
That's it.
That's what it's. How big is your team, Bob? I mean, how many, like, just
I have about 20 people now, and
20?
that's a good size. Back in the Massey Knakal days, we had 250 people. A lot of management headaches associated with a firm that big. But 20 is about right. And I think using technology and AI the way we're using it, I think 20 people could do what it used to take 100 or 120 to do.
Sure.
So it's really good. We've also, part of those 20 folks is what we call our BKREA policy and zoning SWAT team. We've had so much new legislation in New York, new zoning programs, new zoning districts, new tax abatement programs that have gone in for conversions and for ground up development, that so much stuff is so new that we went out and created this SWAT team that consists in-house. We have these folks of zoning attorney, zoning consultant, architect, policy guru, data scientist. And so we can dice and slice all of these programs very, very quickly to figure out how to maximize the value of a development site or a redevelopment property.
Are you seeing developments in New York now? I mean, I know for the past couple of years, it's been a little bit tough, obviously with inflation. Are you seeing developments out here in Los Angeles, Diego's in San Fran? We've kind of seen construction cooled off over the last 24 months. How's the market out there in New York?
Development is hot. Our new mayor is not having a positive effect on the rent stabilized housing market from an owner's perspective, but is having a very positive effect on the development market. We've had some rezonings. We have new legislation called City of Yes that's making building a little bit easier. They're implementing, we have a Euler process, urban land development review process that now has an expedited form called ELERP. There are some zoning, within some zoning districts, you don't have to go through the city council as a layer of approval anymore. So a lot of very positive things. I think the city understands that we need new supply, and it seems like they're backing that up with policies that support that position.
Amazing, amazing. Much different than what we're facing here.
Yeah. And your young advisors, Bob, that you're working with, you know, this planting your flag with a particular outfit, you know, there's so many outfits out there. I love how you guys always drive metrics and data, and you really lead with value in that regard. With all of the changes that you're seeing in New York, like how are you guys navigating that from an operational and like logistical perspective? And then equipping your young brokers to get out there and really like pound the rock, as you say, and make sure that they're fully equipped and fully aware with all of the changes.
Yeah, well, you know, within the verticals that we're operating in, every broker has a geographic area that they're responsible for, and for knowing all the sites and properties that fit into our verticals. And we're constantly, you know, we have sales meetings every Tuesday morning. I occasionally give folks a written pop quiz, make sure they're staying on top of things. So I know who's paying attention, who's doing things the right way, and who needs a little bit of more of a push. So, you know, I tell people, this is a business. If you really want to do well at it, you have to put a lot of elbow grease into it. You only have to work half a day. We don't care what 12 hours a day you work, but you got to work 12 hours a day to be successful, and that's 6 or 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just what it takes. And you know, some people may not want to make that kind of commitment, and that's fine. Everybody is entitled to live their life the way you want to live it. But if you want to get to the top of the brokerage business, you have to go all in on these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's you can't be in the middle, right? You got to choose a side that you want to be on. And I think as a leader, you've done an incredible, you know, obviously your role is to keep everybody intact. And as a obviously a company owner to you, Bob, like how do you keep people accountable? And do you have a lot of turnovers within your group? I mean, I don't want to, you know, hopefully nobody does it, but
Yeah, no, look, I had two platforms that I've been responsible for running. Massey Knakal, which, you know, was based on a geographic territory system where folks felt like they had a franchise within that geographic territory within our system, and we had very, very low turnover. At the new company, similarly, people have geographic areas of responsibility within the property specializations that we have, that we focus on. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way you lead them. I'm a big disciple of Robert Greenleaf's servant leadership management style. A lot of people talk about that, but rarely do they actually implement it. You know, they used to talk about it all the time at JLL, but I never saw evidence of it at all. I was there for 6 years. Nobody ever gave me a piece of feedback about how I was doing.
yeah.
So when we ran Massey Knakal, we gave people feedback all the time. We trained them very, very intensely. And that training them does two things. It teaches them what to do and how to do it, but it also tells them that you care about them.
Yeah.
And servant leadership is wanting the people who work with you to do better than you do.
Yeah.
And so we train the heck out of them. We encourage them. We built up their self-esteem. We made them believe that they could do better than they thought they could do. And the proof is in the pudding. Look, today in the New York City investment sales world, there are 35 companies or divisions of companies that are owned by or run by people we taught the business to. And that's the byproduct of a true servant leadership management style where we built up people. And now those folks are among the best real estate professionals in the market.
Incredible.
Incredible, yeah. The new school and the old school ways are now colliding with this AI technology, weaving the two together. I find it fascinating that you had spent so much time around COVID stitching that 24-foot table together, And I'm wondering, when you were making that, Bob, like where was your head at? Because the whole world stopped. That time was wild for all of us. But as you're stitching this together, were you just doing it just to stay busy, or because you saw an opportunity, or was there something there that was like really keeping you like afloat because of the inability to control things outside of you, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, Diego, let me tell you, you're referring to the Knakal map room. Let
Yes.
me give you the whole story from the beginning. So, we've been selling land as one of the property types that we've been active in for a long time. And it always frustrated me that there was virtually no information available about the supply pipeline for the different main food groups of property types in New York. We have residential rental apartments, condos, hotels, office buildings, a miscellaneous bucket that holds education, healthcare properties, and everything else. And there's limited information about the supply of condominiums, but virtually nothing on any of the other buckets. And even within the condominium data, great firm A will say there's 9,000 units under development, and great company B will tell you there's 6,000 units under construction. So I'm like, how could that be?
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that it really depends when you start counting the building, when do you stop counting the building. And so for years, I wanted to get out and actually count the buildings. And if I was standing in front of a building and I saw, a crane lifting up a bucket of concrete, that's under construction. If that wasn't happening, it wasn't. March 12th, 2020, senior management at Old Coast says, hey, go home for a couple of weeks. We have to let this pandemic pass by. And I go home and watching TV with my wife. My doctor calls and says, hey, Bob, there's a rumor going around that they're going to shut down Manhattan Island. They're going to quarantine it, shutting all the bridges and tunnels. Get out of town right now. So within an hour in the car with my wife and daughter going up to our country house in Connecticut. And 2 weeks later, it was very obvious we weren't going to come back to the office. So I had left the city in such haste, I had to go back to the apartment and pick up a bunch of stuff. So I pull off the FDR Drive and I'm on the Upper East Side, and I'm in the middle of a science fiction movie. There is nothing happening. There are no cars moving. There are no people. There are no stores open. It is a ghost town. And for whatever reason, it occurs to me, now's the perfect time to go count buildings. So I called my team. I said, go into the office, make copies of the Sanborn tax lot map. I don't trust that if I go out with a pad and pen, I'm going to be able to read or understand what I wrote. So I'm just going to highlight the map and we're going to go count the buildings under construction. And so I spent the next 4 months, 220 hours in the field, walking every block of Manhattan south of 96th Street, highlighting everything that was demolished, highlighting everything that was under construction, highlighting everything that was built to less than 25% of its maximum density, highlighting potential assemblage sites. Then we spent thousands of hours researching all of that stuff. And now we have a development pipeline that literally is nailed down to the square inch for each of those 5 buckets that I mentioned. So when we're doing the analysis on development site, we know exactly what the competitive set is going to look like, next year, the year after, 2 years, 4 years from now. So it's really helped with our ability to analyze and value the sites that we're selling. We also took the 3 years, for the last 3 years, updating what we call the Knakal Land Index, which is a study of every development site sold in Manhattan south of 96th Street going back to 1984. We're taking that data, we're applying AI models to it. Again, it's disaggregated into those 5 buckets. The AI models are producing some wild stuff like, hey, if your site is on a corner as opposed to in the middle of the block, you're going to get a 24.4% premium in your pricing. We have 200 of those market insights came out of the models that we applied to our data set. So it's really, really cool what we did. And that all came from, a COVID project. And I didn't intend to actually create this big map. Again, I didn't want to have to interpret my own handwriting. And then after I had pieces of the map, I said, oh, let's see what's happening in the neighborhood. And I started putting a couple of pieces together here, a couple of pieces together there. And before I knew it, I had this 24-foot long map. So it's been by far and away the greatest marketing thing I've ever done. You know, over the course of my career, I've won about 26% of the pitches that I've given. In the map room, we've now given 90 pitches. We've gotten 88 exclusive listings.
Wow.
That's some good conversion rates.
Over 97%.
That's incredible. And I assume you're still using the map room because of those returns that you're seeing, that conversion rate. But are you using that as a training room? Like, are you bringing in your young guys and your young gals and going in there and showing them the map and kind of running?
Yeah, everybody uses the map all the time. Our number one objective is to get clients into the map room, because once somebody goes in there, it will be very difficult for them to think anyone else in town knows more about the land market than we do.
So it's you know,
fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
So a question for you, Bob. I'm 22 years old. I'm not. I'm 52, but I'm 22. I'm just walking in. I just got my license. Fascinating commercial real estate. I don't want to do residential. I want to jump in commercial. What do I do?
Well, expose yourself to as many aspects of real estate as you can and figure out what you're really, really excited about. So I think, you know, as I said, you have to work 12 hours a day to really get to the top of this industry. You can't do something you don't enjoy for 12 hours a day. Yeah. So figure out what you really enjoy and then try to become the market expert. Become the person who has the reputation as the go-to person for that type of transaction in your market. Be the knee ACL guy who's done 10,472 knee ACL surgeries that everybody goes to when they have a knee ACL problem. You know, that is the thing that will put you in such a great position. I mean, we all want to be valuable. We want to be more valuable to our companies than our companies are to us. If you're at a company and you're there because you think the company adds value to what you're doing, you're in a very vulnerable position, because somebody could wake up one day and say, hey, you know what? I don't like the color of your shoes. You're out. And, you know, you want to have the ability to have real value within yourself so that you can choose where you want to go work. And your company is luckier to have you working there than you are lucky to be working at that particular company.
Absolutely. Do you think as a 22 or 25 in your mid-20s, you have the ability to become a force in a commercial investment sales? Or do you think, how long do you think?
Yeah, without a doubt. No, look, Carl, I think that you can easily do it. It's probably the most frequently asked question that I get.
Yeah.
From, you know, I've been active on social media since the beginning of 2023. And because of that, I have folks from all over the country, all over the world, DMing me and emailing me and asking me questions. And, you know, so let's use as an example. I get a call from this kid in Kansas City. Says, BK, you know, I've been in the business 2 years. I sell apartment. You know, he didn't tell me he sold apartment buildings. He said, I'm competing with 3 people that have decades of experience. How do I possibly compete with them? I said, okay, well, what do you do? He said, I sell apartment buildings. I said, okay, how many apartment buildings are there in Kansas City? I don't know.
Yeah.
How many sold last year?
You didn't know.
I don't know. What's the average price per unit?
He doesn't know.
I don't know. He said, you know what? As soon as you're off this call, go buy a map of Kansas City, draw a line around what you think the outskirts of Kansas City are, and go count every building.
Yeah.
And then do a 3-year comp study on how many buildings sold each year, who owns the most buildings, who owns the most units, who owns the, owns the biggest volume, who's been the most active buyer in the last 5 years, who's been the buyers in the last 5 years, what's the average price per foot, what's the average price per unit, what's the average cap rate. And I said, that's going to be a pain in the neck to do, but it's not hard. It's just a pain in the neck.
Sure.
Go do it. and then go talk to a property owner, and I guarantee you that the brokers with those decades of experience don't know that data.
Yeah,
And so how do you compete? That's how you compete.
sure. Yeah. You got to do your homework, right? Right in the beginning of your career, it's all about doing homework. Like I said, I've done my time in the trenches, whereas in now, but I think me and Diego talk about this, discuss it all the time. I think what's happening in today's uh, day and age is that a lot of different social media, TVs and TV shows resonate that it's an easy industry, where it's not an easy industry. It takes time, right? And you got to go through the trenches. But how do you know who's going to succeed, who's not going to succeed? As somebody who's a leader of a company, how do you vision who to be in line with as an advisor on your team? Very, very,
Well, you never know.
yeah.
How do you know? You never know. How do you increase the the probability
Probability?
that they'll do well? Well, we look for certain things in their makeup. Commercial real estate is a very, very competitive business, so we love folks who are competitive and have shown signs of excelling in a competitive environment. So team sports is great for that because it's very competitive and you have to work with others.
Yeah.
In real estate, you have to work with other people. So team sports is a great one, or maybe you were captain of the debating team, or class president, or editor of the school newspaper, or in some way you showed excellence in a competitive environment. And then we looked for likability. We always told our HR people, we don't care how many boxes this person checks. If after you've interviewed them, you don't feel like you want to go have lunch with them or go have a beer
Yeah.
with them, you
They're not.
can't offer them a job.
Yeah.
And, I've seen both ends of the spectrum surprise me. We have two of our guys who are partners, barely got out of high school, and both have made over $1 million a year for over 20 years. And then we hired a kid who was the valedictorian at Harvard,
Nothing.
and he stunk. He flamed out in 9 months. So you never know. All you can do is increase the probability of success, but
Yeah.
there's nothing that's 100%.
Yeah. It's like a flipping a coin, right? I mean, they got to want it, right? That's what it is.
Well, we're kind of getting close to the end of the show, guys, and we want to roll out a rapid fire round, Bob. We've got some real quick questions, and feel free to say pass if you don't want to answer one.
Okay.
JLL called you a consummate professional on the way out. What would you call them?
Look, they're a big company. They do things a certain way, and those guys who run the company know what they're doing, and I wish them well.
Diego, I'll let you do this whole thing.
Sounds like you've never bought real estate yourself, right?
Never did.
So on principle, at $24 billion in sales, was there ever one deal that you almost broke that rule?
No.
Amazing. Discipline.
No, well, think about it. I get asked that question often. The meaty part of the bell curve, because I only represent sellers and only work on exclusives, we're getting a lot of offers on every property. And I have a lot of very, very smart people that I admire and respect that are making bids 10% below the selling price, 15% below the selling price. That's where the meaty part of the bell curve is in terms of offers. So at the time I've sold every property I've sold, I would not pay what the buyer paid. In retrospect, I wish I bought a lot of them, but the fact is that I have not been a principal in real estate.
Cool. I love that answer. 33 firms trace their roots back to Massey Knakal, or 35 now, it sounds like. Name one person you trained who you think will surpass what you built.
If anybody, I would put my money on James Nelson.
And he's going hard on development right now in the city, right? He's doing the conversions. Is that correct?
I think he's doing a little bit of everything. He now is running investment sales nationally for Avis and Young, and we gave James was my assistant as his first job in real estate, and James does everything right. He is awesome.
Love it. What's the most overrated market in America right now, Bob? One city, no hedging.
I wouldn't say a city. I think that data centers are going to be a bubble because technology is changing so quickly. You think you need 2 million feet of space for a data center today, and you're going to be able to do the same functionality in probably 100,000 feet in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
If you had to invest 10 million of your own money today, Bob, and it's not in New York, what market and what asset class?
I would definitely buy in the red states. They seem like they're more business and real estate friendly. And, people always have to live somewhere. So I think look for a market that's not oversaturated with supply and get into the multifamily space.
Multifamily.
Yeah.
Miami.
Paul Massey, one sentence.
As one of my best friends, and we had a serendipitous start to our friendship or for our partnership. Day two on the job, we said, hey, nobody's paying attention to us. Let's work together, split everything 50-50, see how it goes. That was the start of a 30-year partnership. One of my best friends.
Amazing. Last question, Bob. What do you want on your tombstone that has absolutely nothing to do with real estate?
Just that I spent my time well.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this has been a really great.
I got a question. What's that
One
Vancouver
more.
jersey doing in the background?
Oh, that's I'm a Mark Messier fan, being a Ranger fan. So that was the jersey Messier wore when he scored his 600th goal playing for the Canucks.
Who's your favorite Ranger of all time?
Oh, Messier, of course.
Messier. Yeah.
Messi, of course. Of course. I love hockey. I know you're a big hockey fan as well. You have season tickets to the Rangers, obviously, right?
Yep.
No Islanders, no.
1984.
I was a
Wow.
Penguins fan, and I was all about Pavel Bure.
Pavel
Pavel
Bure.
Bure was my guy.
My favorite player of all time is Mary Lemieux.
Oh, there you go. Another great one.
Yeah. Bob, it's been
Bob,
amazing.
thank you.
It's been
Yeah.
amazing, honestly. I missed you last year at EXPCon Miami. I know you were there. I got in late into Miami, but I don't know if you're going to be coming to the EXPCon in Salt Lake City this year. I know. I was with Sean Murphy and James Wong and all the guys yesterday. They were all sending their best regards, and hopefully we can see you at Salt Lake City this year.
Fantastic. Hopefully I'll be able to be there.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
All
so
right,
much, guys.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Thank you,
Take
Bob.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.